additional thoughts that you had coming off this weekend after, a Sunday off?
Yeah, I mean, ready to play. Like, this is the only time all year that we'll have gone 3 days in a row without having a game. It's kind of weird, to be honest with you. Excited to get back out on the field to practice today and get up there and play tomorrow, weather permitting.
Was it nice to kind of catch your breath and gather your thoughts about your pitching this events?
We haven't played on Sunday like 3 weeks in a row. And it'll be 4 this week. So we're kind of in that routine. It's been nice to have Sunday to scout the future opponent, line things up. I guess if there was one advantage of not playing, it gives us an extra day and have a good, grouping of guys that we can use tomorrow, which is important when, you're starting another series on Thursday. So I think it helps in a lot of ways. But these guys want to get on the field. I mean, they're disappointed not to play that third game.
Do you have any updates on Chase or Garrett?
No. Garrett's getting further evaluated today. So we'll see.
Just depending on, not really depending, but whatever happens with him or any other guys that go down, with Gavin's performance this weekend, is his role going to increase?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Next man up. I want to shock the world and be the only team in the history of college baseball that can withstand injuries and still have the type of season that they want to have. And I have a lot of confidence in the guys that are available. And, hopefully we'll get a couple of the other guys back in due time. But in this league, it's hard. You see it with, a couple teams have a couple guys go down, and it changes the complexion of what it looks like. I think we're one team where we can withstand it. And it was built that way and designed that way, and whether it's Gavin Guidry, Griffin Herring, Bryce Collins, Riley Cooper, Christian Little, Thatcher Hurd, let's go. Let's strap it on and find a way to do it.
Just like Herring is a bullpen guy or a starter?
Well, I stopped him at 50 pitches. He executed beautifully on Friday and wanted to stay in the game, and he deserved to stay in the game, but it's like, I think 35 had been the most he had done in recent times, so I thought 50 was a good ramp. We could certainly go further than that. He's going to start. It's just a matter of when, But I think if you look at the story of that game, poise, composure, presence, that's what really stood out about Griffin and Gavin's performance. I think younger and older pitchers can look at those two guys and go, that's how we want to command ourselves in a tight game. We won the game. Obviously, we got a couple free bases and a big home run, but we won the game because how those guys held it together. He came in a really tough spot after an injury with the bases loaded, no outs, and they only scored 1 run. We won by 1 run. So that was awesome out of Griffin. And then Gavin, just super competitive, super poised. I think he pitched great. I actually thought he even pitched better than the results. We had a couple calls not go our way, and he was able to land a big 2-0 slider after 2 guys were on base. 2-1, got the strike, didn't get the call on the next one, and then strike 3. So it's really exciting to see those guys perform that way. We had to have it, and it's a good way to finish games with young players. It's really hard to do for young players. It's a tough league for young players, and they don't look like it right now.
Did you expect Gavin to be this much of a contributor for you as a pitcher this early on?
I thought he could. The situation's obviously changed a little bit to where it's more of a necessity, and it changed on the position player side of it too. Jordan has improved, and he's shortstop. We're not taking him out. That's. I'd be a fool to do that. And then, Gavin Dugas's emergence to play as good as he has defensively, and then, play better than he ever has offensively. I know he's hit some homers before, but, the at-bats that we're getting, and whether it's him setting the table or driving people in are phenomenal. I wouldn't trade our middle infield for anybody in the country right now. So it's made it hard for a guy that's as talented, even as Gavin as an infielder, to play right now on this team. So it gives us the flexibility to, get him into this pitching thing. We just needed time to, again, get the arm built up properly. And so we started in on that after Christmas. Yeah, I have full confidence in him. And, obviously, if we put him in that game, a game that was tied on the road against a top 5 caliber team, that tells you that he's going to be in that situation again.
Are you guys are you guys fully leaning into the pitching side then with him this year, or do you still
Yeah,
expect him to-
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have to right now.
Yeah.
And he's a great team guy, great competitor, great athlete, which allows him to fulfill the role that he has stayed super engaged in everything that we're doing, even as he maybe wasn't playing as much as he'd like to. And we got a lot of guys like that. I mean, you speak to the character of this team. And I even think of like a guy like Hayden Travinsky has had limited opportunities, done well in his limited opportunities, but he's been a great team guy and, stayed engaged in what we're doing. And, I just look for little things like in team meetings, eye contact and, head nods, with guys that maybe are on the peripheral, but they're preparing and working like, I trust them to be ready when it's their time. And Gavin's a good example of that.
Has that ramp up for Gavin also seen sort of like an uptick in his velocity and just sort of more comfortable, being more comfortable?
Well,
with the slider and stuff?
we've adjusted from the first outing was unbelievable. I think it was against Butler. I mean, his stuff was 94, 95. I don't remember who his second outing was against, but it dipped down a little bit. And so we just kind of tweaked some like load management things and build up. And the last few times this stuff has been the same each time out. And so I think he's getting in better shape. He's recovering better. He's doing the things he needs to do, to be a key pitcher for us right now. And, we'll get to the point where you could probably use him a couple times in a weekend, but we're not doing that until I get comfortable that he's ready to do that.
With the entire staff, do you see or have you seen any difference in like the conditioning and of their arms because they're fresher with all these run rule games? I know it's still too early, but
Yeah, I mean, we've protected everybody as much as you could, both in training and development. And we've only played 5 games that have been 4 runs or less. We've won 4 of those 5 games. And I'm very comfortable, playing in close games with this team. But that's kind of allowed us, and we've lost a few by more than 4. But that's allowed us to manage the pitching in a way where nobody's been overworked. I mean, and it's hopefully something that will help us as we go down the stretch here.
Given the potential loss of maybe 2 pitchers, does that mean you might bring up some guy that's might have redshirted this year to start kind of ramping up his outings, or?
I think probably the closest thing to that is, I do think Javen Coleman will pitch this year. I don't know when. We have a benchmark we have 2 benchmarks we have to get past, but it's getting closer. And credit to him. I mean, he's recovered from the Tommy John better than any pitcher that I've ever seen. And there's some ups and downs and ebbs and flows with that, but he's been real disciplined about what he's doing. I don't know when it's going to be and, where we're at as effectiveness. I did see him. He went on the trip with us this weekend, and watching him play catch on Saturday, the day we got rained out, it looked normal. Like, I literally was like, you wouldn't know that he was coming off a injury, which is a credit to the work that he's put in.
what was one of the big things that stood out to you in the comeback win from the lineup?
Yeah, hat tip to that team. It's a good team. We'll play them again, no doubt about it. I thought they were very complete. I thought South Carolina could hurt you. They obviously did with homers on game 1. I thought they managed the zone well. It seemed like there was runners on every inning, but to get behind, and then I thought they had a good bullpen too. But to get a couple free bases, we got some good at bats of guys coming off the bench. Braden Jobert hit a single after we had walked a couple times, or had a walk and a hit by pitch, and then Gavin with the big grand slam. But you're on the road. You had a bad game the night before. One of your key guys goes down. I mean, everybody could maybe understand if you mail it in right there. I mean, everything's going against you, and it's just like, no, we're just going to keep playing. And that's okay. We're just going to keep playing. And so to get it tied up, and then Riley comes in, gets an out. Gavin gets 2 outs. Dylan's down 0-2 and then draws that walk. He's the only hitter in the country, I think, that could have had that caliber of at bat at that time. Totally fly under the radar, but Tommy White got down 0-2 as well and just found a way to move the ball. And Dylan moves up. We get a wild pitch, and then Beloso is, has a lot of college at bats under his belt. Just doesn't try to do too much. Hits one up the middle. We go out there, get 3 outs, and it's a great win. I told the team after the game, like, I've been doing this a long time. I'm always going to remember that game, and everything going against you, all this adversity. Normal teams don't do that, and we're not a normal team, and that's a credit to the character of the players.
Yeah, just, with Beloso and Gavin in particular, these are guys who have been a part of, big-time winning programs and teams in the past. Just, I know we talked about it some this year, but just their insertion into the lineup and they're producing the way they have, just how big of a storyline has that?
Yeah, it's big. I think, Gavin was probably the only player on our roster that could give us the jolt that he's given us. We just needed to get him healthy. He just hasn't been healthy. And so to get him healthy and then for him to step in and be a great competitor that he has, he's first team All-American second baseman right now. Like, I don't know what anybody else is doing, but it's got to be him, And then with Cade, that was a big loss last year. Nobody remembers because it happened right before the season. We really could have used him last year. And when you have Dylan and Tommy, sometimes all you need is a really quality professional at bat after those guys come up, and that's what he's given us. And, you'll obviously continue to see him in there a lot, and really happy about that and happy for him because he's done everything I've asked from the day I was the coach here, and he's put in a ton of work. And so now to see it come to fruition and him be a massive contributor to this team, he deserves all the credit for that.
I remember you saying when you got here, he was one of the guys where you just scrapped everything in terms of his swing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go into detail as much as you can about what he's
Yeah, he'd had some success earlier on in his career and then had a really bad 2021. And I watched all of the postseason at bats from that team that year, and he just looked overmatched. And so I showed him some things we'd done with guys with similar body types, similar swings, and said, this is what we're going to do. And, there was no hesitation, was super excited, started in on his own in the summer. And then once we started, him and Coach Wanaka worked really hard. Being an older player, he's here all the time. Those guys have a little more class, flexibility, and just super balanced and sees the ball well and has a great eye. And has tapped into some of his strength more. And, he's gotten healthier as he's gone along this year, too. So, it's just a lot of work. And, it's fun to coach those players that, have the mind to do it and have the work ethic to do it and determination to do it. Like, he wanted to get better again. And if he hadn't got hurt last year, we wouldn't have him here this year. And sometimes to have a great team or great season, stuff like that kind of just works out for you. And I think that's what's happened.
Coach Wanaka, what makes him, how does he work with these players, and what makes him so instrumental as a hitting coach? You have to have some insight on that. He's his second year here too.
Yeah, that's that could be a long conversation. I think we've been together for so long, there's no mixed messaging. I set out, this is what we're doing on offense, and then trust that individually in the cages on a daily basis while I'm on the field, the right messaging is getting there. And I think if you ask the players, it's just his availability, to work with them whenever. Really good personality, connects with them really, really well. And they know he's invested in their success. And I think, it's the whole, the player needs to know you care before they care what you know type thing. That's Mark. He's elite at that. He's a really good person. He's one of those guys that, baseball's in his blood. It's his life, and, he just has a lot to offer the players in terms of communication, availability, knowledge, and solid messaging.
As far as tomorrow goes, Tulane's record is pretty below average, but how much did you expect them to kind of...
Yeah, no, they're fine. yeah, they're the best team I've ever seen with that record. Like they probably played too tough a schedule, to be honest with you. And they have good players, and they're really well coached. I mean, Jay Ullman was at Oregon while I was at Arizona. I mean, he played at Nevada. I coached at Nevada, so I've known him for a long time. Justin Bridgman, their assistant coach, one of my former players at Nevada. So they'll be fine. Like that. If we win, I'm gonna walk out of there feeling like it's a good win. Yeah, I'm not buying it, and I think they'll finish better in the American than maybe their preseason that they had.
Do you have an idea of who might pitch?
It'll be probably several guys. How we're ordering it or setting it up, I'm not ready to put that out there yet.
You were talking about Tulane playing a tough schedule. And I think about the women's basketball team when they were ridiculed for their quote-unquote easy schedule. They won a national championship. I know your preseason schedule is coming to question this year, obviously. Is there value of both of those extremes? Too hard or too easy?
No, I mean, as far as people's opinion, I just think people like to complain about things. I mean, it's just too much energy to be positive about, the national championship basketball team or the number 1 rated baseball team. Like, we have a reason for everything that we do. I'm trying to think on ours. I can't speak to theirs. I don't know the sport. I know they won all but 2 games, and they held the trophy. So I think their decision making was pretty sound. I mean, Kansas State. I mean, they're right up at the top of the Big 12 standings. Great record. Iowa's really good. Sam Houston's winning the WAC. Texas is winning the Big 12, so that worked. Central Connecticut is 5 games in first place in their league. Samford's winning their league. I actually went through last night and was looking at Warren Nolan like, yeah, we did fine on the scheduling thing. Just because we won a bunch of games by a lot of runs just says more about Dylan Cruz, Tommy White, Gavin Dugas, Trey Morgan, and all those guys than the opponent.
Should we expect to see Eckenhausen back in the lineup soon? And
I sure hope so. Yeah, I mean, he's like one of our best pitchers, and I was just telling Bill he's only thrown 6 times. Like, got to get him back. Like, and it's a hamstring thing, not a arm thing, and that's held us up a little bit. Like, I mean, he's only thrown in 2 SEC games and against 4 of the best teams in the country. Like, he's working hard. I mean, it's the guy couldn't have Easter Sunday without his coach calling him and saying, "Hey, are you in the training room right now?" We need him. He's a big part of this team.
What's been it like for you to see Alex Milazzo kind of adapt to his new role? I mean, I feel like there was a couple weeks there where all he did was bunt, and he comes in, he gets big hit after big hit, and just being a veteran leader.
Yeah, he's been amazing. Yeah, I mean, like I said, like the buy-in, and it's probably more of them, like just the pure leadership, the player leadership, the self accountability of keeping everybody on the same page no matter their role. That's hard. And I mean, I have conversations weekly with players that probably should play more. And if they played instead of somebody else playing, the results wouldn't change that much. But we have incredible depth. I think if you asked Alex, like, he would tell you, I mean, there's not a lot more important players on our team if you really get down to it. And I'm super excited for his individual success. He's helped us win all the games that he's played in, and we'll continue to do that. And I'm excited when he's in there, and he'll continue to be in there. And he's been phenomenal. I mean, his attitude, character, makeup, and improvement in play, all of it super positive.
How do you convince kids that, like you're saying, that you have the conversations with that should play more, that aren't? How do you convince them that their role in this process is adequate and that it's going to be a huge part moving forward in this day and age of?
No, it's a good question. Brett McCabe, Dr. Brett McCabe, who was an alum here, mental training coach, I had him come talk to the team, and he spent about 2 or 3 hours with our coaching staff. This was like in October. And, he had an interesting saying. He's like, the only love language today's player has is playing time. They think you hate them if they're not playing. Like, and he's just like, there's nothing you can do about it. Like, you could be the best person. That's all that they know. And, I think what we try to do is we work with every player. And we have a player development plan for every player on the team. And they won't tell you that just because they're not in there that they don't get coached. No, not one player on the team can say that. And so I think that maybe goes a long ways. And then just communication. And for me, it's like, the simple thought of the player might be, if I'm not playing, coach doesn't trust me. I think they know that we have more good players than spots on this particular team, and this is a very unique situation. And so just communication. And it doesn't mean that it's always hunky-dory all the time. Like, somebody will come in and it's like, hey, what can I do? It's like, you need to keep doing these things, but it doesn't guarantee that this is what's going to happen. We're looking at it every day. You're going to be in there at some point. This is what I need you to do when you be in there. And I think the hardest part is convincing them, like, when they're in there, just do their job to help us win and be successful is the most value they can create for themselves. Like, you can't go in there and play for more playing time or more opportunities, because you're going to fail, because then you're just complicating what you need to do. So high marks for these guys, though, through this point. And that kind of stuff is why we come back and win the game that we won on Friday. This is part of that dynamic. It doesn't mean we're going to be a champion or the best team or this and that, but, they should be easy to get behind because how they handle that stuff.
All right, good.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jack.